This is the newest Lego art. It was literally released on Thursday, and I think it is of some of the most iconic art from the last 40 to 50 years. I'm very excited to share this build with you. It is incredible. I don't know if you can see it right off here, but like, I love it so much. First, we are going to get into my rating and then my review and then some final thoughts, and you'll be on your way to the next video. Let's get into it. Which one am I going to grab? See, I can't grab all 5. I do my ratings on a number of metrics to help you figure out if this set is right for you. Skill 6 out of 10. It uses a weird build technique for like these chunks right here, but honestly, after my second or third time doing it, I didn't even have to look at the instructions. I saw the pieces and knew exactly where it was going, so it's pretty easy. Overall, this build doesn't have anything too crazy to it. It does use a few weird pieces that you don't see a lot, but besides that, totally fine. Aesthetics 9 out of 10. This is meant to be on a shelf or on a wall, so I'm not going to knock off any points for the back here. However, I don't like, and does this one not have it? Of course it doesn't. 1 second. I don't like how some of these have this weird little gap in here, so I did knock off a point for that. Besides that, these look fantastic. Durability, 8 out of 10. This does have some mini pieces like this that can kind of be popped off super easy, but besides that, it's pretty durable. Honestly, during the course of building, not really at any fault of this, but kind of more myself. I did knock, not this one off the table a few times, and really it sustained only minor damage. Obviously it came off the stand, but that just kind of slides in. It was really easy to put back together, so I honestly think this is pretty good. If you are a pet parent or a parent, just keep that in mind, that if you're a fur baby or if your child knocks this off a shelf, probably won't get too bad. Value 10 out of 10. The fairest way to compare sets like this that are 1,700 pieces against ones like that are 2,600 pieces, and other ones like, or pieces like this that are, I think, like just under 600 or 700 pieces, is to break it down to price per brick. There are some factors that can affect a set's value, whether that be licensing or weird pieces. I don't really feel like this one has weird pieces, but it could have a licensing issue. I don't know. Usually a set's price per brick will range between 6 cents on the low end and 12 cents on the high end. Anything beyond 12 is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. This one costs $119.99. Yes, I said that right. And has 1,774 pieces, giving this a 6-cent price per brick. So like, that's fantastic. Time 7 out of 10. This took me 4 hours and 23 minutes. Usually I feel like I average about like 350 pieces to 425 per hour. This has 1,774 pieces, which means I averaged about like 394 pieces per hour, which is pretty good in my book. Enjoyment 8 out of 10. This is a new rating for me that's entirely subjective, but I spend so much of the review talking about how enjoyable I find builds are. I figured I should add in something preemptively in the beginning. One of the things I really like with this one is you can see it coming together so quickly. I love that we put on some of these blue pieces and you can kind of see where the build is going. It's fairly simple, but yet very satisfying. Overall S tier, this is a well-known art and it is replicated so incredibly well into Lego. It kind of just belongs there. I feel like also with that value, it's just like, they probably could have gotten away with charging a little bit more for it and I still would have bought it, and I still would have thought this was S tier. So overall, it's a fantastic set. I also appreciate another Limitless not being added. I'll explain in the review portion. This video's got to get a little bit longer before I can kind of explain. Let's talk about it. Also, I just want to say really quickly, thank you so much for watching the video to this point. It means the world to me. Yeah, anyways, review portion. This set is 16 bags and has 5 separate figures. The 5 figures all have their own color. In bag order, there is orange, blue, yellow, pink, and green. Pink was my favorite build-wise. One of the unique things I like with this build is that you can do it with 5 people. I literally cannot recall a set that was designed for up to that many people to do it, except maybe the Milky Way Galaxy. I've mentioned wanting to do a Lego building party before, and this set totally works for it. It would only be like $20 a head, which for Lego is crazy. I also think you could totally have each person take theirs home. It's literally perfect. All the figures are similar enough. If you did it with up to 5 people, you wouldn't feel like you're missing out by not doing a figure. At the same time, they're also not so repetitive. If you do it by yourself, it's still enjoyable. I also think since these are all separate figures, it'd be very easy to split this up over multiple days. Really, besides the number of pieces on this one, I do feel like it's a nice unwind set. I don't know why, but I picture Legos as something people crack open after a long, hard day of work, but I do. Most people just don't sit down all day and build, but I've got a weird schedule that lets me do that. If I had a second favorite figure, it's the blue one. I love the color on this. Something unique I noticed with this set is when you say Keith Haring, most people have no clue who he is, even though his art is extremely well known. Like when you say Andy Warhol, you might picture a painting of Campbell soup or pop art. When I say Da Vinci, you think of Mona Lisa. Or Van Gogh, you might think sunflowers. But Keith Keith Haring gets a blank stare, but everyone recognizes Keith's work when they see it instantly. Honestly, I kind of think this is a style art that you associate with a whole decade, and it comes from this one man. He rose to popularity in the 1980s, and a lot of his art was activism, which I had no clue about. These figures don't have it, but a lot of his figures look a bit weird, like they have 3 legs. How do I word this in a way not to get myself in trouble with the YouTube overlords? They had an appendage that typically give you the gender assignment of male at birth. Did I do that okay? I tried to avoid every word that would get this video flagged. They're really long for some reason in his art, but he did this as HIV/AIDS awareness, as he himself had the disease. He also advocated for another cause that was near to his heart, gay rights. He also advocated for other causes, including anti-drug, and honestly a lot more. Allegedly, I say this because I wasn't alive then, but he and Andy Warhol were good friends, and Andy Warhol held a lot of respect for Keith, which I think is really cool. For how well known his art is and how much he produced, I was fascinated in my research to find out he passed away really young. He was only 31, which, to be honest, like 10 years ago when I was in high school sounds so old, but now at 26, I realize how crazy that was. It's also not like he was a child prodigy or anything. His first public art started in 1980 and he passed away in 1990. He was very disheartened by the art world and how commercial it was. I found an excerpt of his diary that read, "The public has a right to art. The public is being ignored by most contemporary artists. The public needs art, and it's the responsibility of a self-proclaimed artist to realize that the public needs arts, and not to make bougie art for the few and ignore the masses. Art is for everybody. Art can be a destructive element and an aid to the takeover of mass identity society." As his fame grew, he kind of found that he had to adopt the commercialization of art, even though he had a very strong disdain for it. He just wanted to paint full time, but that doesn't really work if you also have to deal with selling the paintings. Unfortunately, as he became more famous, the art he created for the people in the subways in New York was taken down as it was seen as something very valuable that could be sold. I think it's really sad because I really like the art. I think it would have been a really positive experience to see such cool art as you're hopping on the subway as part of your commute to work. With that philosophy, I do wonder if Lego had to pay for any licensing fees for using his art. I don't think there's any way to actually know, but I do hope it was like a donate to one of the causes Keith really cared about sort of thing with his estate or heirs or whatever. I feel like that would have been a good way to honor his legacy. Maybe like an HIV research program or something. I don't know. The price of this and for what you're getting is incredible, and in my opinion makes his art more accessible to the masses. Hypothetically, you could split the cost of this with a few friends and get to have a figurine you made of his art. My husband has a print of his 1982 anti-nuclear weapons poster, and I've always walked past it and been like, wow, that's really neat. It's something I see like almost on a daily basis, and I didn't think much about it, but I thought it was neat. But definitely after doing these, I honestly have such a deep appreciation for it, which I think is really cool. It kind of makes me a little sad that we don't get to have his art like in the subways as he intended. I just think it would be really cool to be able to see art like this or Monet or whatever in your daily lives instead of it being a whole thing where you have to go out of your way to a museum, or hoping it's like even in your same city, So I wish that like art was more accessible, and I kind of see his point on that after doing so much research into him, but also just like building the set. But at the same time, I know vandals are 100% a thing and like thieves are a thing, so I get why we can't have these beautiful, expensive art pieces out where the public can see them, but like I really wish we could. Okay, some final thoughts. I know I kind of explained the third leg thing. I'm just really glad this didn't have it. I understand the meaning behind it and everything, but I think it would have been a little uncomfortable to be building that, knowing what it is, if that makes sense. I appreciate this not having it, although I do appreciate in the art why it's there, and it really was like a good work of activism, so kudos to him, but I also appreciate this not being here. I also really love the details. I think I'm gonna hold this one up for this, of adding in all the little lines around it. I feel like you can totally see it. It looks great, and this clear piece just kind of blends in, so you don't really notice it as much as you do like the black lines around it. I think that's really cool. I'm also so happy to get another art set like the Lego Love that is kind of a model like this instead of like a traditional painting like the ones I have behind me. And I actually have Milky Way like right here. I can see it, you can't, but like I'm happy to get something that's a little bit more of a statue than like these. I love these, don't get me wrong, but I'm happy to be getting another one. Also, I am blown away by how many art sets we've gotten this year. So far, we got the Lego Love, which I have in my bedroom, the sunflowers, and then now this, and it's only May. Like, that's crazy. I also really appreciate with this one that the difficulty on this is so low. Beginners could do it. I would recommend doing it in a group or just like taking it in chunks if you are a beginner, but like, it's so cool. It really like making it geared towards beginners, and like, obviously everyone who loves Lego art really kind of does make his art accessible in a really weird way. I do have some other things I wanted to say before we go. Thank you so much for watching, for one. This means the world to me, but I just got to apply for monetization Saturday morning, and I literally like bawled my eyes out when I realized I made the requirements. So like, thank you so much. This has been such a dream come true. I have loved Lego for many, many years, and I have spent a lot of money on Lego, and this is a very big passion of mine, probably one of my biggest passions, so thank you so much. It means the world to me that I get to do this. Also, I'm officially over 100 Lego sets. My husband the other night was like, how many Lego sets do you think you have? And I was like, I don't know. And then I went around and counted, and it was 106, and that was before I did this one. So I think I'm at 107, so I definitely will post a Lego tour soon. But first, I'm going to be posting the Pyramids of Giza next week, and I'll also post a buying guide in that week before June 1st, so that way, you know, you can know what's coming out and then kind of get yourself prepared. I think June 1st is going to be really, really crazy, so I think that video will help, so that way you're like on a mission. I know what I'm getting instead of being overwhelmed by the amount of people and new sets in the store. Anyways, subscribe for all of that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!